The streets of Atlanta were unusually quiet at 2 in the morning. A light drizzle tapped against the sidewalks, and the glow of the street lamps made the empty roads look almost ghostly. Alicia Johnson pulled her coat tighter around her shoulders as she stepped out of her car, parked near a 24-hour diner. She had just finished a 16-hour shift at the FBI field office, her mind heavy with the weight of the cases she had been working on. To any passerby, she looked like an ordinary black woman driving home late at night. What no one could see was the badge tucked safely inside her bag. The one she had earned after years of relentless hard work. Alicia had grown up in the south side of Chicago, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. From an early age, she had seen injustice face to face. She had seen her neighbors unfairly profiled, her friends harassed by police simply for the color of their skin, and her own brother questioned one too many times when walking home from school. These memories fueled her dream. She wanted to be more than just a bystander. She wanted to be someone who could protect, someone who could change the system from within. That dream carried her through college, then law school, and finally into the FBI Academy, where she trained harder than anyone else and refused to quit even when the obstacles seemed too great. But tonight, she wasn't thinking about her past or her achievements. Tonight, she just wanted a warm cup of coffee before heading home. As she walked across the quiet parking lot toward the diner, the screech of tires broke the silence. A police cruiser swung into the lot, headlights glaring directly at her. 2 officers stepped out, their faces stern and suspicious. "Hey, you!" one of them shouted, pointing at her. "What are you doing out here this late?" Alicia froze for a moment, caught off guard by the aggression in his tone. "Just getting coffee," she replied calmly, trying not to show the exhaustion in her voice. The second officer sneered. "At 2 in the morning? That's funny. Let's see some ID." Alicia felt her chest tighten. She knew this routine all too well, and she knew it wasn't about the time or the place. It was about her skin, her presence in an empty lot, and the assumptions they had already made about her. She could have flashed her badge right there, ended the whole confrontation before it escalated. But part of her hesitated, because she wanted to see if they would treat her with basic dignity without needing proof of her authority. Instead, she reached into her bag slowly for her wallet. The first officer stepped closer, his hand resting on the grip of his weapon. "Easy," he barked. "Don't make any sudden moves." Her heart pounded, not from fear of guilt, but from the painful familiarity of this scenario. She had trained to face dangerous criminals, but nothing compared to the sting of being treated as a suspect simply for existing. She handed over her driver's license, her voice steady but edged with emotion. "Here you go, officer." The man snatched it from her hand, glancing at it briefly before scoffing. "What are you really doing here? You don't look like someone who belongs around this part of town." Alicia clenched her fists inside her pockets, fighting the urge to snap back. She thought of her mother's voice, always reminding her, "Keep your head high, baby. Don't let them break your spirit." The second officer circled around her, his flashlight scanning her car, her shoes. Even the tired expression on her face, they weren't looking for answers. They were looking for reasons to humiliate her. And for a brief second, she almost let despair wash over her. But then something inside reminded her of who she truly was, not the stereotype they wanted her to be, but the woman who had broken barriers, the woman who had sworn an oath to serve and protect. Alicia took a deep breath, steadying her heartbeat. She had nothing to hide, but she had everything to prove to herself, not to them. The first officer flicked her ID back at her carelessly, as if her existence wasn't even worth the plastic card it was printed on. "We'll need to search your vehicle," he declared, his tone leaving no room for refusal. She looked at him squarely, her voice calm yet sharp. "On what grounds?" The officer smirked. "Because I said so. Unless you've got something to hide?" For a moment, silence filled the lot. The drizzle had turned into a steady rain, droplets sliding down Alicia's cheeks, though she wasn't sure if the wetness mixed with her own quiet tears of frustration. She had dealt with this kind of arrogance before, but tonight, after hours of serving her country, it cut deeper. She had written reports that shaped national security. stood shoulder to shoulder with agents who risked their lives in the field. And yet here she was reduced to a suspect in the eyes of men who didn't know her story. Finally, she reached into her bag again, but this time, she didn't pull out her wallet. She pulled out a small leather case, flipped it open, and held it out firmly. The gold FBI badge gleamed under the harsh beam of the flashlight. The effect was instant. The smug expressions on both officers' faces froze, then melted into panic. The first officer's mouth opened, then closed again, his words stuck in his throat. The second officer lowered his flashlight slowly, his bravado gone in an instant. "I'm Special Agent Alicia Johnson, Federal Bureau of Investigation," she said, her voice unwavering. "And you've just harassed a federal agent without cause." The officers exchanged nervous glances, their earlier confidence collapsing like a house of cards. We didn't know," the first officer stammered. You were just what?" Alicia cut in, her tone sharp but controlled. "Doing your job? Or assuming that a black woman at 2 in the morning couldn't possibly be anything but trouble?" Neither of them answered. The silence spoke louder than any excuse they could muster. Alicia let the moment linger, making sure the weight of their actions settled into their conscience. She could have written them up, filed a complaint that would follow them for the rest of their careers. But instead, she chose something different. "Remember this night?" she told them quietly. "Remember that the people you judge by their skin, by their clothes, by where they are at 2 in the morning, they may be the very people working to keep you safe. The least you can do is show respect." The officers lowered their heads, shame evident in their posture. Alicia tucked her badge back into her bag and walked past them without another word, the sound of her boots steady and strong against the wet pavement. She didn't need their apology. She didn't need validation. The badge in her bag was proof of her worth, but even without it, she knew exactly who she was. Inside the diner, the warmth of coffee and the gentle hum of the jukebox greeted her. The waitress, an older woman with kind eyes, poured her a cup and whispered, "I saw what just happened out there. You handled it with grace, honey." Not many could have kept calm like that. Alicia smiled faintly, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. "Sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought in war zones or courtrooms," she replied softly. "Sometimes they're fought in parking lots, in the dark, when no one's watching." As she sipped her coffee, she thought about the younger version of herself. The girl who once believed the world would never see her beyond her skin color. The one who used to walk home with fear every time a police car passed by. She wished that girl could see her now, standing tall, badge in hand, silencing the very prejudice that once threatened to break her dot by the time she walked back out into the night. The rain had stopped. The air was cool and fresh, carrying with it a sense of renewal. The police cruiser was gone, but the lesson remained, etched into the memory of everyone who had witnessed it. Alicia slid into her car, started the engine, and drove off toward home. Her reflection in the rearview mirror caught her eye, and for the first time that night, she allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. She knew there would be more nights like this, more moments where her presence would be questioned, her dignity tested. But she also knew she was ready. She had faced worse, risen higher, and she wasn't about to let ignorance dim the fire inside her. Somewhere in the quiet of that Atlanta night, Alicia whispered a promise to herself. "I'll keep fighting. Not just for me, but for every girl who comes after me. One day they won't need a badge to be respected. One day their existence will be enough." And with that thought warming her more than the coffee ever could, she drove into the horizon, a symbol of strength, resilience, and unshakable dignity.